We're recording. There's the dot. So that's shooting high. Let's go low. All right. So we got to shoot it low. You seen that right there firsthand. I was shooting high because my ballistic chart said it would drop 8.5 inches. But I guess the way that I zeroed on the arc, if I aimed right on it, guess what? I was going right over it. I've been going right over it this whole time. So in theory, I got to aim right below it. So this is the theory to let you guys know I'm not dicking around. I'm not necessarily a bad shot, and that it's not the camera setup. Let's see right here. Let's see. Wait for it to stop slowing in. All right. All right. Got it. So I. Hey guys, so today for class we're going to be talking about what I personally believe through my experience, um, just for what I do. With my experience, what I believe the hardest ranges are to hit with a rifle. Now, I also want to hit off, we're talking practical ranges here. We can sit here and say, yeah, 3 mile shots are the hardest because that's the world record, and you had to calculate the curvature of the earth and the bullet drop and the wind and all that and this, but that we're not getting into that. We're getting into the practical setup and everything. Some applications or the applications over here. Uh, Precision rifle shooting, that sport, PRS. They do shoot out to 1,000 yards, 1,200, I believe, actually. Hunting, so it could be long distance hunting, just hunting in general with a rifle. Keyword is rifle. Training, if you're training for war or foreign invasion, that's what we do here on my channel. Um, so the parameters are set from 0 to 700 yards. That's not the answer. That's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm about to give the answer of what I believe is the most difficult shots to hit consistently. What ranges that falls under. And then we're going to do a little example. I drew a BDC reticle here. All right. So we got our reticle. Filled that in a little bit more. So, like I said, for practical application, and I'm trying to generalize this. In this area, particularly where I'm at, you're not going to see a shot above 300 to 400 yards, and that is maxed out. We're talking like farmland, because where I live in the Appalachian region, you go down a hill and then you go up a hill. From like here to here on the hill, you could shoot, and it's probably 30 to 50 yards, and that's not to mention the trees and the vegetation. It's close quarters. It's CQB the whole way. Like I said, unless you're doing like hunting over farmland or cornfields or just natural fields, it's pretty much trees and hills in my immediate area at least. So, me personally, I don't have a lot of experience shooting above, say, 500 yards. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. But I've done a lot of research, and I've seen people, and I've read a lot of forums, and I can take that information that they talked about and regurgitate that for you. So, like I said, just take everything I say with a grain of salt. I can only say firsthand. There's a spider there. I can only say firsthand what my immediate experiences are. immediate. What my experiences are, and then regurgitate that. So, this is pretty big range what I'm about to write up here, but just hear me out, okay? This might make you upset, but anywhere from 100 to 300 yards. Why? So typically you zero at, give or take, here's some popular zeros. Popular zeros we got here, we got 25, 36, 50, and 100 yards. Essentially, you're going to shoot a target, you're going to aim for the X right here. And hopefully if you're watching this, you know how to zero an optic. And then let's say you hit here, and you're trying to hit the middle at 25 yards. So you can go down and left, and then once you're hitting in the X, that is your zero. But you have to keep in mind that you're zeroed at 25 yards. So why does that matter? because a bullet does not go in a straight line and the gravity take effect. It's more like you throwing a football. As soon as it leaves the muzzle, most calibers, popular calibers, start to rise. Okay, they rise and then they arc. So there's my great artist rendition of a gap piece right here. A rifle. And here's the arc. This is actually how bullets move. They move in arcs. It's not like in video games where it's just straight and then maybe a little bit of drop. It actually goes up before it comes down. So let's say that you sight in at 25 yards. We'll say that's here. Here's 25. Typically that means that you are a couple inches high at 300. So you got 20, you're zeroed in at 25, you're going to shoot a couple inches high at 300. Really, typically, I think it's like really 315, 325 yards. The arc should match. So you zero at 25, you should be almost dead on at 300. You're going to be a couple inches high. However, if you zero at 36, you will be dead on at 300 yards because of the arc of the bullet. We're not including windage and all that stuff. All this forward of, for most calibers and cartridges, forward of 300, you have potential to shoot high. And see, this is what throws a lot of people off on most BDC reticles and stuff. You don't have any hash marks. You might have some to the side. You might have some, left, right, and down. Especially down. That's what it is. Bullet drop compensation. However, most do not have compensation up top. And this is all circling back around. Just hear me out. Typically, I know with the Monstrum series, at least most of them, this is your reticle. This is 400 yards, 500, 600. I think mine goes all the way to like 800 yards. It might be 900, something like that. But essentially, as long as your scope profile, so like your caliber matches and your barrel length is roughly the same, and when you buy the scope, like mine's a 308, I bought the scope specifically because it was a 308 type scope. 308 and 5.56 have similar trajectories out of the barrel. 308 during the farther ranges is a little bit better, but it lines up pretty good is what I'm saying. So in my case with the 308 with a 100-yard zero, which is way over here, my 308 with a 100-yard zero allots me to line these up at 400, 500, and 600 yards. So in theory, as long as my scope profile matches my rifle, and when you buy a scope, especially you buy it online, it should say in the description if it's for just 5.56, 300 blackout, whatever. In theory, and I've seen this work out to 500, like I said, you just put the hash mark, the middle of the hash mark on the target, whether that be something as small as a milk jug or a big steel plate, a 10-inch plate. I was nailing a 10-inch plate at 400 yards on a 1-6 like a month ago. I hit, out of 90 shots, I hit like 83. I'm not even playing, back to back to back. Just using the BDC. Just using this little first hash mark right there. I think actually the way it lined up, it was right above the hash mark. But it was super easy to find that hold, especially if you hit low. If you're hitting low, you can see the dust kick up and stuff like that. But my answer, 100 to 300 yards, is you have potential of shooting high, and it's really hard to see if you are shooting high because of the arc. Even if you zero at 100, that's kind of, on this arc, it's kind of this representation I drew. It's not exactly 100% right. There's still a little bit of arc at 100. But this 100 to 300 range right here it's really hard unless you have just a ton of expertise and knowledge to know exactly where you're at, because it's the arc is the most dramatic towards the middle section. So this trajectory is the most dramatic right here from that 100 to 300 range. And we're talking, this is all about precision shots right here. Let's say you want to shoot a deer in the heart. You want to have an ethical kill. Let's use this. You don't have a rangefinder and you're out hunting, because this is a real world application, very popular, especially deer hunting in my area is very popular. You're going into your blind, sun's just now coming up, you were a little bit late, whatever, you're trying to rush into your blind, and then through the tree line on the other section of the field, right across the field, you see a trophy buck right there, and I mean, you're shaking, and you just decide, man, I just go out here, heck yeah, I'm lucky, and you put your rifle up, you mounted your gun, so everything is perfect in this instance. You got the L shape or whatever on the tree, all good to go. But you have no idea what the distance is. Now, some people would probably be like, I need to aim a little bit high because it's a couple hundred yards away. I fell into that trap more times than I can count, not having a rangefinder or purposely trying to not sabotage myself, but, judge the distance, and I always overjudge it every time. It could be like 260 yards, which would allot me typically shooting like 6 to 8 inches high. And I think I need to shoot high anyways because it's at a far distance, just naturally. That's what you see in movies. That's what most people see. Oh, we're at 270 yards. I need to shoot high. But your rifle's going to naturally shoot. What I'm saying is at, let's say, 270 yards. You think you need to aim like right here on the reticle, but even if you put the reticle dead on nuts at this dude at 270 yards, you're actually going to hit up here. You're going to hit above his head. Or you might skip him right here. So with your point of aim, you're going to aim here, but your point of impact is way up here. And I'll try to pop up a chart somewhere in this video, or just have it in the corner to kind of see what I'm talking about. So your zero distance matters, but also your zero distance is just aligning your scope with somewhere on this arc, right? There's still going to be that arc for the bullet. The scope doesn't magically change the arc of the bullet. So it's all about aligning the arc of the bullet to fit what you're going to be facing. In my area, these are long shots. So 100 to 300 yards, I have to find a zero that kind of closes this gap by using the scope to zero at a distance that closes the gap. I know this is very complicated. It's really hard to explain. Like I said, hopefully that image makes more sense, the one I'll be popping up. But this is just science. Because like I said, everything behind 300 yards is easy money. 400 yards, first hash mark. 500 yards, second. 600 yards, third. Anything in between that, if it's like 450, you just put right here in the middle, right here roughly in the middle, and I guarantee if it's a 10-inch target, I was able to smack one pretty good, and I'm not the best shot in the world. I'm just saying. Now, it depends on your rifle and the MOA, but we're taking all that other stuff out of this. This is solely using the scope and then the arc, the trajectory path. So 400 will be like here, 500, etc. So yeah, hopefully I'm making sense. A lot of the times, you'll sit here and you'll think it's farther than what it actually is, but it's like 280 or it's like 250 yards. And like I said, it's going to shoot. Heck, 250 is like typically 250 or like 225 to 250 is typically the height of the arc. So you would actually be shooting way up here. I'm not playing with most heroes. If you were aiming here at 250 yards, dead center on a human silhouette target, you'd hit way up here. You have to aim low. You'd have to put the center of this reticle low Like, we're talking like dead on nuts, you know what I'm saying? Like, literally dead on nuts to hit center mass at 250 yards. That's putting the reticle there. So knowing your holds within the 100 to 300 range is crazy. And even at like, even at 75, if you zero at 25 or 36, your point of aim is going to be low. You're going to want to aim like lower midsection to shoot dead on nuts. And by dead on nuts, I mean like, center mass. To shoot center mass, you want to aim down here. So hopefully I'm making sense. There really is, especially if you don't go out to the range a lot, there really is a lot of stuff going on. And I think that especially this is the range that you need to be training with, and you need to make your shots count. Because, I know with me, I can't afford a lot of ammo, but, really trying to judge distance without a rangefinder, just in case you see yourself in that scenario, out in the field, you're not going to engage at known distances unless you pre-plan it, and you can't do that all the time. But anywhere from 100 to 300 yards, essentially anything from like 225, 250 and in, or even 200 yards, whatever, that 200 yard range, give or take about 30 or so yards, is going to be the peak of the arc. So you're naturally going to want to shoot low just to hit center mass. You're going to have to aim way down here to hit center mass. And that's typically with 5.56 308. Now we're talking 22, like we're talking intermediate and high-powered rifle cartridges. And I've met people that have hunted their whole life and they don't know why they've been missing deer so much, throughout their life. And this is why. It's because they overestimate the range. They think it's like 350. They think it's 400 yards, but it's actually just the way, with the hills and the valleys and stuff around here. It is so easy to overestimate range or to have it wrong. I mean, sometimes it's closer than what you think it is, but sometimes it's a lot farther. Key takeaways, guys. Bullets arc. It's not a straight line. It's not a straight line and then gravity takes over. There is rise. Peaks about 200 something yardish. It depends on the caliber, what you're using, but usually 200 to 250 is the peak. And then it slowly starts going back down, and then it actually accelerates because gravity, it's losing velocity, and it just accelerates kind of towards the end, typically, depending on the round. So yeah, that's my answer. 100 to 300 yards is like the hardest to master because you have to aim high, and it's hard to figure out, especially with the typical 25 yard zero or even the 50. We call it a 50 200. So in theory, if you zero at 50, you should be dead on nuts at 200. That's probably what I'm going to do with my ARs now, the 50 200, because of what I'm going to personally face around here. But you need to look up different zeros and stuff. Like I said, I'm going to have this image up in the corner or something like that, pretty much the whole video. Anyways, like, comment, and sub. I really do like teaching like this. I like getting out in the field. I like getting dirty and nasty, but I also like sometimes just sitting here. I got this whiteboard donated to the channel, and, I really do enjoy this. So, yep. Let me know how you guys' day going in the comments, we can start some conversation, If you have any opinions, what's your opinion on this? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm full of it? Do you think the longer distances of like 700 and in, so like that 400 to, or I guess in this case 300 to 700 range, do you think that actually is harder than what I said? I mean, be honest with me. And like I said before, we don't know the distance. We're just walking up on something. Our rangefinder died or something. You're going, we don't know the known distance. We're just judging it by eye, and just be honest with yourself. Because even me, like a trained individual, I get it wrong a lot. I mean, especially, like, I'll get my rangefinder sometimes, not even shooting. I'll be like, yeah, I'll say that's probably about I don't know, 275, and then I'll go up there and I'll click, and then it's like 450. I'm shooting like completely through a field with the rangefinder. Click 450. I'm like, there is no way. And that's just because of the way the hills and the terrain is. It's really hard to judge distance. At least for me. I'm not going to lie to you. So, yeah, let me know your answer down in the comments and your experience. If you do like big game hunting over in like, in the actual mountains in Montana and stuff, or like Kansas where it's just miles of open. Let me know. Let me know what your farthest shot was. I'm really interested. This isn't to gain like subs or anything right now. I'm really interested in your opinion on this because, I can't sit here and say this is a fact. I just know for me, I struggle with this. This is hard to do because, like I said, you can aim direct center mass and shoot 8 to 10 inches high right over someone's head. It's crazy. But anyways, au revoir. I'll see you guys next time on the mountain. God bless y'all. Peace.